Hello and welcome to the Tank Club. This is just a quick video kind of explaining how crowd control works and how crowd control immunity works. So as a tank, one of the most important things when you go into any sort of content like dungeons where you've got a lot of ads to control and you've got a very short amount of time to do that, you have to use skills that work alongside each other. So for example, you go into an ad pool and you chain everything in. You want to stack everything by chaining. Now you'll either use a chain skill, you'll use Silver Leash, Unrelenting Grip, or the Void Bash set from Vatterstrand Hollows. Now once you've chained everything in, you then have to immobilize it, because if you've got 8-10 enemies, you can't physically taunt them fast enough to stop them from hitting your group. So the thing you can then do is you can immobilize those enemies. So an immobilization will work straight after a chain. If you try to use a skill that stuns or fears the enemy, that will not work after a chain. And this is always why we've had these common issues with Nightblades and Templar tanks, for example, where they don't have a skill to immobilize the enemy. So by using a pull skill or a chain skill, you pull everything in, you then need to immobilize it to hold it in place. Now that's why, if you followed any of my content, you'll realize that's why I use Elemental Blockade with Frost Pulsar, because that immobilizes enemies when you combine those two skills together, along with providing 6 buffs and debuffs. Now one of the other things you can do as well is you are able to snare enemies as well as chain and immobilize. So that is why the combination of skills like Caltrops, Pulsar+Blockade, Void Bash, Unrelenting Grip and Silver Leash, those all work in tandem with each other, because you can snare an enemy, immobilize an enemy and chain an enemy, and that will not cause crowd control immunity. If you try to chain something and then fear it, or stun it, or freeze it, or whatever, it doesn't work, because the crowd control immunity doesn't allow for those effects to happen one after the other. So if you are going to look at ways to control groups of enemies, you can use a pull or a chain, mostly the Void Bash set. This is why the Void Bash set is the best in the game for pulling stuff in, because with one button, within 1 second, you can pull in an unlimited amount of enemies as long as they're not elite or bosses. You can then immobilize them and you can snare them. So for me personally, when I go into an ad pull, I like to go in, I like to put down Elemental Blockade, I then like to Void Bash them to pull them onto the Elemental Blockade, I then use Pulsar to freeze them in place, and then I'll throw down Caltrops to snare them, and then I'll go and taunt everything, because at that point everything has been pulled in, it's been debuffed, it's been snared, and now it's possible to go and taunt them if they are not dead. You can also combine Turning Tide and things like that into that particular setup, because that is going to debuff them even more, and it's just a great way to do ad pulls. So that was just a quick video explaining how that crowd control immunity and how different effects can work alongside each other. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.